David Morrison, Janet Carlisle, Marcus Thompson. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, elder financial abuse, and embezzlement. The FBI agent's words echo through conference room A as handcuffs click around my former boss's wrists. Janet's face drains of color completely, her perfectly manicured hands trembling as reality crashes down like a house of cards. After 15 years of watching her climb over everyone else to reach the top, she's finally falling, and I'm the one who pushed her. But let me start from the beginning, because this story didn't start with handcuffs and federal agents. It started 6 months ago with a single misdirected email that changed everything. My name is Sarah Martinez, and until 6 months ago, I believed that loyalty and hard work meant something at Morrison and Associates. 15 years I'd given to this glass tower on Chicago's Lakeshore Drive. 15 years of 60-hour weeks, of holding clients' hands through market crashes, of building relationships that generated millions in revenue for people who saw me as nothing more than an expensive line item on their budget spreadsheet. At 62, I was the senior client relations manager with a spotless record and a client retention rate that made my younger colleagues burn with envy. But in the financial world, gray hair means one thing: expendable. The conference room feels like a tomb as Janet Carlisle slides the manila folder across the mahogany table, her voice carrying that barely concealed note of satisfaction that makes my skin crawl. "Sarah, we're restructuring your position," she announces, wearing that carefully crafted expression of corporate regret that fools absolutely no one.
At 45, Janet is everything the financial world supposedly wants: young, aggressive, and completely without conscience. Her promotion to managing director 3 years ago came right after she convinced David Morrison that fresh blood was essential for the firm's future. Fresh blood, translation, push out anyone over 50 and replace them with cheaper, hungrier versions who won't question the bottom line. "The company is moving in a new direction," Denise from HR adds, her mechanical voice matching Janet's fake concern. "Your contributions have been valuable, but we're consolidating operations under younger leadership." Younger leadership, like Marcus Thompson, the 28-year-old fraternity boy who couldn't balance his own checkbook, but somehow landed here through his father's golf club connections. The same Marcus who's been driving an $85,000 Tesla on a junior advisor's salary. I nod thoughtfully, accepting the folder without opening it because I already know what's inside. The standard severance package. 2 weeks for every year of service, continued health coverage for 3 months, and a list of career counseling resources I'll never use. "I completely understand," I reply, my voice steady as granite. These decisions are never easy. Relief flashes across their faces like lightning. They'd clearly expected tears, protests, or anger. After all, I'm a 62-year-old woman being pushed out of an industry that worships youth above experience.
What they don't know, what none of them know, is that I've been anticipating this moment for months, ever since I discovered what they've really been doing with my clients. My work, my 15 years of dedication to this place. They think they're eliminating a problem, but they're actually about to create their worst nightmare. "We'd like you to clean out your desk by Friday," Janet continues, gaining confidence from my apparent acceptance, like a predator sensing weakness. "We'll need your key card, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be notified this afternoon." My team. 6 brilliant engineers I personally recruited and mentored over the years. The same people who helped me build the relationships that now generate 40% of this firm's revenue. The same clients Janet and her cronies are already planning to divide amongst themselves like vultures picking at a carcass. "Of course," I say, rising from my chair with dignity intact. "Is there anything else?" They exchanged glances, clearly thrown by my composure, because they expected me to beg, to cry, to make a scene that would justify their decision. Janet recovers first. That practiced smile, never wavering. That's all for now, Sarah. Thank you for making this professional. Professional? That's rich, considering what I know about their extracurricular activities. As I walk back to my office, I pass the glass-walled conference room where the executive team is meeting, and through the transparent barrier, I can see CEO David Morrison himself gesturing animatedly at a PowerPoint presentation titled Q3 Revenue Projections. The same David Morrison who hired me 15 years ago, who used to call me his most valuable asset, who now sees me as dead weight to be discarded. The irony burns like acid in my throat because those revenue projections they're celebrating are built on relationships I created, clients I nurtured, deals I closed while they were still learning how to tie their ties. I close my office door and pull out my personal phone, sending a single text message that will change everything. It's happening. Friday is my last day. The response comes immediately, like they've been waiting for this moment. Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize details. I smile as I look at the calendar on my desk. Today is Wednesday. Friday, I'll walk out of Morrison & Associates for the last time. And Monday is going to be absolutely fascinating. That evening, I meet Detective Raymond Torres at Meridian, an upscale restaurant far from the financial district's prying eyes. Because what I'm about to discuss requires absolute discretion. Torres is younger than I expected, but his questions are sharp as surgical instruments, and his interest in my story is immediate and intense. What you've documented here, he says, reviewing the files I've brought, this is exactly the pattern we've been tracking across multiple firms. Elder financial abuse disguised as legitimate transactions with senior employees terminated just before investigations begin. The pattern I discovered 3 months ago when a simple account review revealed unauthorized withdrawals from 12 different client accounts, totaling $890,000, all processed with my forged electronic signature, all during times when my keycard showed I wasn't even in the building. They're planning to frame me for the thefts, I explain, push me out, blame any financial irregularities on age-related confusion, and divide the spoils among themselves. Would you be willing to wear a wire during your termination meeting? Torres asks, and the question hangs in the air like smoke. A wire? After 15 years of dedicated service, I'm being asked to spy on my own colleagues? But then I think about Mrs. Eleanor Whitman, the 78-year-old widow who trusts me with her late husband's pension. About David Chen, the tech entrepreneur who's planning to fund his daughter's medical school tuition. About the Johansson family, who barely survived the last financial crisis and can't afford another one. What happens to my clients, I ask, because that's what matters most. Full restitution through federal recovery programs, Torres promises. But we need direct evidence of conspiracy. Your testimony alone isn't enough. We need them confessing on tape. I think about Janet's smug satisfaction, about Marcus's unexplained wealth, about David Morrison's willingness to sacrifice me to protect his profit margins. And suddenly, the decision becomes crystal clear. What do I need to do? The next morning, I arrive at Morrison & Associates with a wire taped against my ribs and 15 years of suppressed anger burning in my chest. The device is so small I forget it's there until Janet calls me into conference room A at exactly 9:30, the same room where I've closed million-dollar deals and built my reputation one handshake at a time. Now, it feels like a courtroom, and I'm both the defendant and the prosecution's star witness. Sarah, thank you for coming, Janet begins, her voice dripping with false concern. we've reached a decision about your situation. David Morrison is already seated, along with Denise from HR, the same woman who processed my original hiring paperwork 15 years ago, back when this company valued experience over expediency. The folder she slides across the table contains my severance package, 30 weeks of pay for 15 years of service, and a non-disclosure agreement that would prevent me from ever discussing what I've discovered about their criminal enterprise. There is one small matter, Janet continues, and I can practically taste her satisfaction. We've discovered some irregularities in several client accounts. Unauthorized withdrawals, all processed with your electronic signature. Here it comes. The setup they've been planning for months. The narrative that will paint me as either incompetent or criminal while protecting themselves from any consequences. The documents she spreads across the table are perfect forgeries of my authorization, complete with timestamps that would have been impossible for me to create. But they don't know I have proof of where I actually was during each transaction. I don't understand, I say, playing my part perfectly. I never approved these transactions.
David leans forward, his voice gentle and patronizing, like he's explaining something to a confused child. Sarah, we know the digital systems have been challenging. It's understandable that someone your age might find the new protocols confusing. Someone my age. The phrase hits like a slap, but the wire is recording every word, every assumption, every piece of evidence I'll need to destroy them completely. Perhaps there were honest mistakes, Janet suggests, her tone reasonable and understanding. Difficulty keeping track of multiple client requests, confusion about authorization procedures. We're not suggesting anything intentional. Not yet, anyway. But I can see where this is heading. They want me to accept responsibility for their crimes in exchange for a quiet exit that protects their reputations and their freedom. What are you suggesting? I ask, though I already know the answer. That you acknowledge the oversights, David replies smoothly. In return, we'll handle the matter internally. No criminal referrals, no regulatory reports, just a quiet resolution that protects everyone involved. Everyone except the clients they've been stealing from, everyone except the employees they'll eventually frame for their crimes, everyone except the industry that needs to know what kind of people they really are. And if I don't agree, the temperature in the room drops 10 degrees, and Janet's mask finally slips, revealing the predator underneath. Then we'd have to refer this to law enforcement, she says, her voice cold as winter. Criminal charges for elder financial abuse are quite serious, Sarah. Prison time, forfeiture of professional licenses, complete destruction of reputation.
They're threatening me with exactly what they're guilty of, and the audacity is breathtaking. But they don't know that every word is being recorded, that federal agents are already building a case, that their own arrogance is providing the evidence needed to convict them. I need time to think, I say, because that's what an innocent person would do. Take the weekend, David replies magnanimously. But we'll need your decision by Monday morning. Monday morning, when they think I'll come crawling back, begging for mercy, accepting their terms to avoid criminal prosecution. Monday morning, when instead, they'll be the ones in handcuffs. The weekend passes slowly, but I use the time wisely. Meeting with federal prosecutors, reviewing evidence, coordinating with the FBI task force that's been tracking this pattern across multiple financial institutions. They show me files on other cases, other senior employees who were pushed out just before investigations began, other firms where systematic theft was disguised as age-related incompetence. You're not the first, Agent Maria Rodriguez explains, but you might be the key to stopping this industry-wide pattern. Monday morning arrives, gray and cold, matching my mood, as I return to Morrison & Associates for what everyone thinks will be my confession. The security escort is waiting, Kevin, a guard I've chatted with for 5 years, who gives me an apologetic look as we ride the elevator to the 30th floor. "Sorry about this, Miss Martinez," he says quietly, and I almost feel bad that he doesn't know he's actually escorting them to their own arrest. Don't be sorry, Kevin. Sometimes justice requires witnesses. Janet and David are already seated when I enter conference room A, looking confident and victorious, like they've already won, like they're about to close the biggest deal of their careers. They have no idea they're about to become the biggest losers in financial industry history. "Have you reached a decision?" Janet asks, her smile sharp as broken glass. "I have," I reply, pulling out my phone and sending the text that will change everything. "Come in now." David's face shifts from confidence to confusion to growing alarm as the conference room door opens and Detective Torres enters, followed by FBI Agent Rodriguez and Assistant District Attorney James Wellington. "What is this?" David demands, rising from his chair, his corporate composure cracking like ice in spring. "This is me taking responsibility," I say calmly. "You asked me to own up to the unauthorized withdrawals from client accounts, so I did. I took responsibility by reporting the actual perpetrators to federal authorities." Janet's face goes white as paper, and she tries to run, making it exactly 20 feet before Kevin, who turns out to be an undercover officer, stops her with professional efficiency. "David Morrison, Janet Carlisle, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, elder financial abuse, and embezzlement involving over $2.3 million, Agent Rodriguez announces, and the words are music to my ears. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Marcus, who's been called in separately, starts crying immediately and begins blaming everyone else, while David maintains his dignity until the handcuffs click, then starts demanding his lawyer, like he's somehow above the law he's been breaking for years. "Is there a let away in federal custody? I feel something I haven't experienced in months. Pure, unadulterated satisfaction, mixed with a sense of justice finally being served." The investigation that follows reveals the full scope of their operation. 47 clients victimized, shell companies in 3 states, forged documents dating back 2 years, and a systematic plan to eliminate senior employees who might discover the truth. Janet gets 8 years in federal prison. Marcus receives 5 with full cooperation, and David Morrison, the man who hired me 15 years ago, gets 12 years plus forfeiture of all assets. The civil lawsuit nets me $847,000 in damages, money I used to start Martinez Wealth Management, my own firm, built on the relationships they thought they could steal. Mrs. Whitman is my first client, followed by David Chen and the entire Johansson family, along with 32 other former Morrison clients who appreciate working with someone who values integrity over profit margins. 6 months after my supposed disgrace, I sit in my home office overlooking Lake Michigan, reviewing portfolios from my growing client base, when the phone rings with another referral from the satisfied customer. "Martinez Wealth Management, Sarah speaking." I answer, and the voice on the other end is exactly what I've been waiting for. "Ms. Martinez, I was referred by Mrs. Johansson. I understand you specialize in protecting clients from financial predators." The irony isn't lost on me. Janet thought she was eliminating an expensive liability. Instead, she created her most effective competitor. At 62, I've learned the most valuable lesson in business. Never underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The industry trade publications are calling it the Martinez case, a cautionary tale about the dangers of age discrimination and the importance of protecting whistleblowers. I've been invited to speak at conferences, to testify before congressional committees, to share my story with women's professional organizations across the country. My name is now permanently attached to financial industry reform, exactly where it belongs. Last week, I received a letter from the new CEO of what's left of Morrison & Associates asking if I'd consider returning as a consultant to help rebuild their shattered reputation. I sent back a simple response. Thank you for the offer, but I'm too busy building my own success to clean up your mess. The letter is framed on my office wall, next to the newspaper clipping that shows Janet being led away in handcuffs. The headline reading, "Former Financial Executive Exposes Multi-Million-Dollar Fraud Ring." Today marks exactly 1 year since Janet Carlisle slid that severance package across the conference table, thinking she was ending my career. Instead, she was starting my greatest triumph. They dismissed me after 15 years, thinking they knew what was coming. But they had absolutely no idea that their greatest mistake was underestimating a woman who spent 6 decades learning that justice delayed is not justice denied.
My name is Sarah Martinez. I'm 63 years old, and I just proved that in the war between experience and arrogance, wisdom always wins. They thought they were getting rid of deadweight. Instead, they created their own destruction. The student became the teacher, the victim became the victor, and the overlooked became unforgettable. Game, set, match.